Has anyone heard of VeggieTales? I've been a big fan of it ever since I got my first DVD, which was Rack, Shack, and Benny. The show was really good in my eyes because of the characters, stories, morals, and humor. I have outgrown the show because I've gotten older, and I'm glad I did because there are these new redesigns and this spin-off called VeggieTales in the House, which to me is kinda a guilty pleasure. I still have a bunch of DVDs and even some old VHS tapes. I've watched all of them except one. Its name was Where's God When I'm Scared? I've actually had it before, but when I was about to watch it, I couldn't find it. So I decided to go to my old buddy Amazon to look for not a re-release, not a remaster, but the original. I searched for it but couldn't find a copy, until I got to the bottom of the results. The title of the item said, VeggieTales 1993, Where's God When I'm Scared? VHS tape, good as new. I couldn't wait to get it in the mail. About a week later, my aunt and uncle, who I was living with at the time, were going on a trip. They said if I ever needed them to call them. At least I can watch the tape without being disturbed, because my sister is also gone to a friend's house as well. Right after they left, the mailman came and put something in the mailbox, most likely a package from the yellow wrapping I could see around it. So after he left, I checked the mailbox, and sure enough, it was my package. I grabbed it, went into the house, into my room, shut the door behind me, and started opening it up. After I opened it up, I started to look at the tape's condition because, you know Amazon. You could get something that looks brand new on the picture of the item, but then you wind up getting a sand-filled GameCube. The tape's box art looked like it was copied off of Google Images, and the actual tape didn't have a label. Jeez, Amazon, thank you very much, I said in a kind of sarcastic way, even though I was really happy to get the tape. Since I have an old VCR, thanks to the 80s, that I barely use anymore that I got from my uncle, I put in the VHS tape and pressed play. For some reason, it took 9 minutes to get working. I'm guessing because of the bad condition. After the 9 minutes of waiting, which felt longer because I was excited to watch it, the tape finally began. It seemed like everything was normal at first for the first 15 minutes of the tape. It was a great episode that had a great lesson. God is bigger than any monster out there, followed by a funny, silly song called the Water Buffalo song. About when I was going to finish the other 15 minutes after the silly song, it seemed like the tape got preempted because it showed a black screen for about 3 minutes. Not only was I upset because I thought the tape didn't work after 15 minutes or was recorded over the actual show, I was also mad that it seemed like I was scammed out of $10. But after a little complaining, the show seemed to restart because it showed the intro again. I was a little curious because the show normally doesn't restart unless it's over and you hear the tape rewinding inside the VCR, but it didn't, and I didn't hear the tape rewind inside. When the actual show started, it showed Bob and Larry standing on the countertop as usual, but for some reason, the atmosphere felt different, almost depressing. I mean, Bob and Larry were smiling, and the background was bright and colorful, but for some reason it felt depressing. Everything was about normal until they started reading the letter. Bob read the letter out loud, and it said, Dear Bob and Larry, I am a mother of 2 children, and my youngest son died in a car accident last night. His dad fell asleep on the wheel and crashed into a tree. He was fine, but my son was killed. I don't know what to do anymore. I just hope you understand what I've been going through. Michelle. Bob looked really upset with the letter, and Larry didn't say anything clever or funny, which is kinda out of character for him. The show interrupted Bob and Larry before they could say anything. The show started up with Junior watching TV at night in the living room, similar to Where's God When I'm Scared, with the familiar Mom Asparagus saying, "Junior, time for bed," with Junior saying, "Just 4 more minutes." But he decides to turn off the television and go to his room. He hopped up the stairs and into his room. However, he is extremely scared, even more than he was when watching the TV show. He thought, "Yeesh, that show is scary, but it isn't real, is it?" Junior goes to sleep, and we get treated to his dreams and nightmares. There are a lot of flashing colors and shapes with Junior in the dream world / just dream. After about 30 seconds, I heard a loud, booming voice that sounded like my TV speakers were at 100% volume. However, my volume was turned down to 10. The voice said, "You are weak, humble, disgraceful, no one." This part shocked me the most. I was jump scared by the monster that Junior watched on the TV, except it looked a lot more demented. Junior woke up with not a scream, not a cry, but instead a shocked face. It cut to 2 days later. Bob and Larry were with Mom and Dad Asparagus. The dad said, "Junior hasn't come out of his room in 2 days. Is he sick? Is he coming down with something? Is he injured? We don't know because he never told us." They entered his room. Junior looked a lot worse than from the last time we saw him. He was laying straight on his bed, staring straight up with red, bloodshot eyes, and was drooling out of a gaping mouth. Bob closed his eyes and said, "Junior looks like he's in really bad condition." This is the first time I've seen Bob this serious. They cut to Junior again, but he was shaking rapidly and started foaming out of the mouth. He seemed like he was crying as well. It cuts to a hospital building where a doctor that looked like Archibald said in his British accent, "Junior hasn't slept in 3 days. He looks like he's shocked, almost in a coma state." His mom said to Junior, "We didn't know you were scared, Junior. You should have told us." This was getting really disturbing and getting uncomfortable to watch. After his mom saw that the beeper, the thing that tells you if the heart is still beating and beeps, went flat, Archie then said to them, "I'm sorry everyone, but Junior is dead." It was really sad. I felt like I was going to cry because Junior was one of my favorite characters in the show. It cuts to a picture of the Asparagus family, with Mom Asparagus crying in the background, while mixed in with the words, "He's gone. I can't bring him back. I can't live like this anymore." Then we see Mom Asparagus in the kitchen, reaching in a medicine cabinet and pulling a bottle of pills. She finishes with the following word, "When you lose someone, you will always feel pain until you can't feel at all." She opens up the bottle, pours all the pills in her mouth, and passes out. The final image is an image of the Asparagus family. It cuts back to the countertop, where Bob and Larry are, even sadder from when they read the letter. Then Bob said in a sad voice, "It's time to talk to QWERTY about what we learned today." QWERTY didn't work though, and Bob was getting angry at QWERTY for not working. He starts bouncing off of QWERTY like a ball, getting angrier every time. Larry even told Bob to stop or he might get hurt. Bob charged at the computer, and when he hit it, he splattered into pieces of tomato juice and tomato chunks. Larry ran off crying. He then went to the edge of the countertop and said to the audience while staring at the camera in a sad voice, "Remember, kids, God made you special, and He loves you very much. Goodbye." Larry then jumped off the counter, and when he hit the floor, he smashed into pieces. Then the episode ended with no credits, just nothing. This was a very shocking experience for me. I didn't know who made the episode. I didn't even know if I was dreaming or not. I couldn't sleep for 2 days. I kept on getting nightmares about that episode. The next day, I decided to email Big Idea, the company that makes VeggieTales, about this strange and disturbing episode. I didn't get a response until 2 weeks later, and the email said, "To whom it concerns, from Big Idea. Subject, disturbing VeggieTales 1993, Where's God When I'm Scared? We are sorry. We have never made anything as disturbing or demented as you have described for us, but we understand your worry, so we think you should get rid of it and anything else that might worry you. And remember, God made you special and loves you very much. Big Idea." I took their word for it and threw the tape, along with my VeggieTales DVDs, VHS tapes, and even my Bob and Larry plushies that I've had since I was little, and threw them in the garbage. I tried to tell other people about it, even my closest friends and my aunt and uncle, but they didn't believe me. I was watching the news on TV, and there was a news story about a father and son who was driving last night and crashed into a tree. The father survived with few injuries, but the son died, and the mother was named Michelle. That's strange, because there was something similar to the letter that Bob and Larry read. So the next day, I decided to take a drive around my home state of Arizona. After a few hours of driving, I found myself at the Grand Canyon. So I parked my car there and went to the edge. I looked down into the rocky floor at the bottom of the canyon. Say to those with fearful hearts, "Be strong, do not fear. Your God will come. He will come with vengeance. With divine retribution, He will come to save you." Isaiah 35:4.